My name is Teresa Guido Cox, and I'm here to show my opposition or talk about my opposition to the land swap that's happening in Limerick. And whenever you scroll back, you can see that it's a bad deal for wildlife. And when I was looking up of like, what am I going to say today, I was really leaning into the strategic plan and the vision for the future. And I see that we align in so many different ways. And I just want to highlight some of those things. But first, I do want to say that with data centers, they're just a bad deal for wildlife in general. And I think that people just don't know it yet. So that's also why I'm also want to say. So we don't need data centers for AI that we're using now. It's for the future use of AI that the billionaires and corporations want to do. Noise, air, light pollution, the infrastructure that's going to use to run these data centers is just bad and dangerous. I want to go to the strategic plan and just say that there's opportunities for you to find people like me to work together and new ways and all through your information you talk about finding new ways and the vision for the future. So just the wildlife program will address threats to the wildlife population, health, and sustainability to help achieve the agency mission relevant to data centers. Partners will continue to be integral allies in the sustainable conservation of birds and mammals. And so the priority for that was to strengthen relationships with non-traditional partners who share the values of the Game Commission. And that's people like me, and we were talking about, we've been talking about other people too. So opportunity again. It's relevant to conserve wildlife habitats through the management, monitoring, restoration, and scientific research. So we're going to use science to look at the long-term health and sustainability of our environment. And then data centers are going everywhere, and the lands will be conserved to increase public access to hunting, trapping, wildlife, and watching to preserve priority habitats. So I think it would be interesting to see the watersheds. There's so many people who have just drilled down information and knowledge about this, and I think that if we collaborate, we can really figure this out. And I think that you guys could be an ally. So whenever the data centers started popping up, and I work in that area with vets and their spouses, and it's a really vulnerable population. It could be super devastating to have all of these popping up. I'm sorry. So with your guiding principles, you talk about evaluating and adapting to environmental, social, and political impacts on wildlife and habitats, and I think that this is a big one. And then also, Pennsylvania Constitution is really unique whenever you compare it to other states or commonwealths, in that number 27, and you talk about being a trustee for that right, the trustee of the wildlife. I'm so sorry. I'm all over the place. But anyway, I think that locally and nationally, if you engage with people that align with your vision, you can make money for the revenue to help the habitats. It's all connected. And then just like you said, there's never been a time in our state's history when it's been more important to protect the habitat that remains and enhance existing habitat to better benefit wildlife. And quality habitat is the catch-all that helps the wildlife weather difficult times. And I think that we're always in difficult times, but you can look for the joy. But yeah, I just thank you for listening, and thank you for everybody showing up. And there's a lot of opportunity. And please think about the land swap and how it could affect whenever you scroll out. I appreciate everybody.
Thank you. Yep. My name is Fred Ebert. I'm a lifelong Montgomery County resident. I'm a father, a husband, and a lifelong sportsman. I own a civil engineering firm. I work for developers. I'm here to speak about the land swap on State Game Lands 234. I grew up in the area. I still remember during snow days where I would walk down there on days we didn't have it. The first item I want to talk about is the key to bringing and retaining new hunters is access to local hunting land. That is really our key. The location of this land compared to the amount of hunters in this area is simply irreplaceable due to the development pressure that it puts on. The current use of this land is used all year round by hunters and non-hunters for running their dogs, walking, and the importance of this is it shows the entire community the importance of hunting, and it elevates the acceptance of hunting and the benefits of hunting to the overall community. A public perception of hunters and the ability to use our land really elevates us in their opinion of us and how they treat us and work with us moving forward. We will lose some developable land when they put that on there. And an attachment that you have in the back is the actual conditional use that was submitted to the township. You will see in the plan in red is the areas that we will lose. In blue is the area that we will lose in the land thing. This is, and the key to this is, that man right there nailed it. The kids want to have, and young hunters, not kids, all hunters, dove hunting opportunities. The key to that is accessibility to their local population. I saw 8.9 miles away. It's my home round. That's 35, 40 minutes in southeastern Pennsylvania. That's an hour for somebody who's got a 10-minute drive to State Game Lands 234. Sorry, I just want to make sure that I get all of my points here. The biggest concern I have with the land transfer is that once you block the access off to this, the whole area is surrounded then by a railroad, which has all wetlands. There's no other access other than the existing farmland that goes down through. We will lose that access. And if you look at this, all the conditional use plans, there is no use of that road. In any of the plans that have been submitted, that future access is not shown, and it's not utilized even if they have that right. So I think that you have to look at, not a scare tactic, because that's what developers do, and that's what we do. We scare you into doing that. That's not shown. That's not on there. The land that is up in Onalani Orchards, I love additional land. Don't get me wrong. I love that. But that's an hour away. And you know what? It's 5 minutes away from Blue Marsh. One of your crown jewels of your state game lands, Blue Marsh, 5,000 acres with the Army Corps of Engineers. You're adding 377 acres, broken up in 2 parcels, but it serves the same population. It doesn't replace us. What I want to get down into is really the trust factor. The Commonwealth, when the Pennhurst facility shut state down, they entrusted you as a game commission to protect that land. They didn't want it to be developed. They gave it to the Game Commission to protect and serve for the residents. This trust and the track record of you protecting and preserving land by the Game Commission is key to your future donations for having sellers give their land to you to be preserved and not feel that it's just going to be used as trade bait for a future deal. Limerick Township and its residents have rallied and showed great public opposition to this. They wrote you a letter. The senators have written you a letter. This vote is an opportunity to show the residents that Game Commission listens and supports the local community. And Big Township will work with you on location of open space, buffers, and other items. The last thing I want to go is the precedent setting, and this is the most important. This exchange places a target on all game lands for development, provides the developers with a game plan and a path to seek out desirable land they want to do. It's what I do for a living. You're giving me the game plan to move forward. We can't set this precedent by selling that our public land is for sale. This is much larger than a simple trade of land. It's about protecting every game lands from future threats. This is where we need to draw the clear line that our land is not for sale. We are making we're not making the best of a worst deal. One more second. We're protecting our future with a right. I fully appreciate the political pressure you're under. But I will tell you, if you do this land swap, you've seen the tip of the iceberg. They now know the path. The political pressure that you're getting is going to double, triple. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Beverly Eccles. I'm a 25-year resident of Limerick. I'm here to oppose the land swap. My you're giving the very, very best piece of that piece of land to the LLC. And what that's going to do is give them what they want, and they're putting so much into sweetening the pot to convince you to give them that you've got to realize how very important and critical that piece is for them. Number two, if you look at the Montgomery County tax map and superimpose it on that peninsula, it's a different representation than what you see that they're giving you on their representation. There is a good swath of the land at the bottom of that that's forested, that is actually part of the river floodplain and considered part of the river. The tax map itself, if you overlay it, it sits right on top of that pile of dirt that they've clear cut. And that's the part that they legally own in Montgomery County that they can actually swap with you. So you're getting a pile of dirt on the left side of that, and on the right side of it, you're getting some floodplain. So the piece of land that you're getting is not all that great. So this will give you, it's not an even swap in that particular neighborhood. Even though you're not part of the decision for the data center, this will facilitate the data center. If you don't do this, I think they won't be able to find a business proposition that will allow them to put in that data center. They'll find that they can't use the land that they have, they'll find that they can't get access to it, and they're going to just walk away from that. So your piece of this land swap is very critical to the data center. So even though you're not making the decision about the data center, you're facilitating it. So it will be viewed that way by the community, and it'll end up with the demise of this particular game land altogether. And that will be how you're perceived, what the Game Commission does for Limerick. Thank you.
Good morning. Is it still morning? Yeah. My name is Steve Tricarico, and I'm a resident of Berne Township in Berks County, as well as a member of the Berne Township Planning Commission. By the way, I like your idea of the red light. We should do that at our meetings. Very helpful. I'm here today to express my support for contract L3930. Thank you. The proposed land exchange involving Limerick Town Center LLC and the 377 acres located in Berne Township, along with additional parcels elsewhere. It appears to be important to you folks today, as you provided this flyer here, which talks in great detail about this particular land exchange. This land exchange is also important to us because the Pennsylvania Game Commission's acquisition of this land directly aligns with the goals outlined in our township's comprehensive plan. One of our core objectives is to guide and manage development in a way that respects our diverse land uses while preserving the rural character that defines our community. Adding this land to the state game land system would help us maintain that rural atmosphere at a time when development pressures are increasing. Recently, the Berks County Industrial Development Authority acquired a large tract in Berne Township, leading to significant industrial growth. While economic development is valuable, it must be balanced. Expanding state game lands within the township provides the balance by protecting open space and reinforcing the rural identity that our residents value. The conversion of these 377 acres into game lands also supports specific goals in our comprehensive plan. For example, our ecological resource goal number 1, which is to promote the most effective use of land and preserve areas not suitable for development. The portions of this tract include steep slopes and other features that make it inappropriate for construction. Also, our ecological resource goal number 6, which is to preserve open space for recreation. This land would offer new opportunities for outdoor activities and public enjoyment. There's also a practical safety benefit. If I could draw your attention to your agenda here to page number 68, it shows details where this land is located. You'll notice there that on one of the boundaries is West Leesport Road. Now, West Leesport Road is one of the major roads in our township. It's a collector road. And that particular road has seen multiple deer-related collisions every year. Allowing hunting on this land would help manage the deer population and reduce the number of vehicle accidents in this area. As one of our earlier speakers mentioned, jokingly, that she'd like to send the overpopulated deer from her area into areas where there's less deer. My suggestion is to bring hunters into the area where we have plenty of deer to be hunted. In closing, I believe strongly that public land is a valuable asset and we should expand it whenever possible. According to today's agenda materials, Limerick Township will not lose public land through this exchange. The Pennsylvania Game Commission will transfer 55 acres of Skate Land 234 to Limerick Town Center LLC for potential development, and in return, the PGC will receive 60 acres from the developer, resulting in a net gain of 5 acres of public land. When combined with the additional increase of more than 550 acres of public game land, this is a big increase, obviously. So for these reasons, I fully support Contract L 3930 and encourage its approval. And by the way, if this exchange is a tip of an iceberg for the developers to seek land exchanges, and if the ratio continues to be 10 acres for one, I think it's a great idea. So maybe there is some benefit to this colder climate. Thank you.
Commissioners, good afternoon. My name is Dave Wenzel, and I want to talk to everybody today about the #1 threat to wildlife in Pennsylvania. Let me help you out. It's not hunting. It ain't predation. It's not pollution. And it ain't climate change. It's not even natural disasters. The #1 threat to wildlife in Pennsylvania today, according to the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, Penn Environment Research and Policy Center, and the Penn State Extension all agree is habitat loss. I'm going to read a quote to you from from one of those organizations, and it says, "Each year, more and more of the state's wildlife habitat is crisscrossed by roads, energy, infrastructure, sprawling development, and other projects that fragment our wilderness, making it harder for Pennsylvania's native species to roam, migrate, mate, hunt, and forage. And the problem of habitat loss is accelerating. For example, people do net population growth, or due to net population growth statewide, Pennsylvania ranks 8th in the nation for loss of agriculture land to low-density housing sprawl. And the loss of fragmentation of habitat is now the #1 threat to wildlife." As that threat to, or as that habitat loss continues, the burden of replenishing that wildlife or that habitat and finding habitat falls squarely on the Game Commission. This comes straight down on their shoulders. And I have to tell you, you've done an excellent job finding additional lands, additional resources to help mitigate some of that habitat loss. Despite being handicapped or handcuffed, if you will, to caps of prices per acre, you have managed to find creative solutions to help replace much of that habitat that's been lost. And that's a credit to everybody on this board and to the real estate department and all those folks working on that. Moving forward, I would like to again encourage you to continue to examine every land deal, every possibility to expand our footprint as Pennsylvanians by having game lands owned by the Game Commission, managed by the Game Commission, and that habitat actually preserved by the Game Commission for our wildlife. You're all doing an excellent job. I sure appreciate you. I know everybody in the room does. God bless you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing us to be here today and for you to hear what we would like to speak to you about. I'm here. I am in Chester County, East Vincent resident. I live across the river from Linfield, where you're looking at this land exchange. And I'm going to encourage you, please do not take away this only ground for hunting over in that area. As this gentleman talked about, he and his son like to hunt, but it's not only about the hunting there. In the township meeting that I attended in Limerick, so many people came forward and talked about how they walk this land. They're out there with their kids, showing them what wildlife is still around. And if this heavy industry gets to switch out this property, that's not going to be there for them any longer in that area. We had residents talk about how they moved to that area because of how rural, and they have these availabilities to them to go out and walk these properties and these trails. And, you know, unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to be a hunter. I'm originally from North Carolina, from a big farmland. My family always hunted. That's what we had on the table to eat. And I was told as a woman back then, I'm sorry, you're not allowed. I had to learn to shoot a gun. I could go out and fish, but I could not go hunting. I don't know why. So God bless all you women who hunt. Good for you. But again, I can't imagine what it would be like to go back to North Carolina and those lands that my family luckily still owns would not be allowed to be hunted on. That you wouldn't be able to go out and walk it and see the wildlife. And, you know, we don't need any more heavy industry taking away the beauty that's around us in this state. And that's what seems to be happening. I mean, it's like I said, you know, I'm in East Vincent. We're looking at a possible data center on Penhurst property across from a vet center. I can't begin to tell you the amount of wildlife that we have there. You know, I go out and walk the Schuylkill River Trail all along the Schuylkill River, and eagles, I don't mind the snakes so much, beaver, fox, groundhog, possum. You know, I mean, we can't afford to continue to treat our land that's available for our wildlife like it's just, we can just transport it wherever we want. So you exchange this land out, and they're offering you this 60 plus acres supposedly in the same area. That's along the river, that's floodplain, that's wetlands. Who's going to hunt there? Who's going to be able to walk that? You know, this is really important land. And why? Why is it so important to this industry to take this parcel? It must be really important to them to offer you all this other acreage in other townships. Think about it. Why do they need this piece so badly? Because they can't build in the wet plains there. But why would we give it up? Why would we take away something so valuable to the residents to allow industry? So I'm asking you, please say no on the land swap. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Steve Hacker. Thanks for having us here. I live right across the river in Chester County from where this land swap's going to be. I overlook it. It's a great deal for other townships that are getting all that land, but it comes with a pretty heavy price. This little piece here, it's a thriving ecosystem right now. They want to trade it for a pretty much clear-cut floodplain. There is so much wildlife. I see it all the time. People talk about not seeing prints. My yard is peppered with deer prints. When they do this switch, if they do this switch, it's not like the animals know we're supposed to move over here exactly. These deer and all this wildlife is going to scatter. It is absolutely going to scatter. There's going to be carnage on the roads. And it's going to scatter into places where you guys can't get at it anymore because it's going to move into non-hunting land. I mean, it just seems like such a terrible idea. This is, I thought that game lands were supposed to be kept in perpetuity. I guess I was wrong about that. The trade is bad, And I want to bring up something else. I don't know if there's any scientists on this board. I'm not a scientist. But I found this word, phytostabilization. I don't know if any of you know what that is. That is where, here I'll read it so I get it right. Plant roots, soil microbes, they act as a physical barrier for pollutants because they bind with the heavy metals in the soil. And tree roots, vegetation, soil, it holds heavy metals and keeps them from flowing out. This thing is right next to the Schuylkill River. Now, these guys have already clear-cut the part they want to give you. If this goes, I don't know if you're familiar with what Publicker was. It was a distillery and alcohol product factory. Then it became an antifreeze distribution center. Antifreeze. I don't have any physical proof that stuff was spilled there, but people talk. I've lived there for 40 years. I've heard that they dumped hundreds, maybe thousands of gallons of antifreeze. This has already been listed as a Superfund cleanup site. This is what they found: PCBs, lead, arsenic, cadmium, trichlorobenzenes, cyanide, antifreeze, ammonia products. If they let that go, I mean, they want to build on this, which means they're going to tear this land up. And it's going to spread. I know you're going to say maybe Game Commission, this is the EPA's problem. Well, if it leaches into the river and kills all the fish, it's a game problem too. And I have a well. People around us have wells. I think the repercussions for this land swap way outweigh any of the benefits. Thanks for listening.
Hello, I'm Sarah Case. I'm a resident of Linfield in Limerick Township, and I would just like to state that the State Game Lands 234 is a resource that is critical to the community that I live in. It's especially critical because of the increasing development around us. It offers a green space, hunting space, supports the wildlife, it provides habitat and the hunting. I'm not a hunter, but I love walking in the woods, and it provides that space for me and many people in my community. With this proposed land swap, losing what is valuable to our community is not worth the gain. And the proposed replacement acreage, as was just spoken, is not comparable. We would not have the woods, we would not have the area with the habitat. And it would also be removing a critical buffer, protecting the residential neighborhoods of the community from the industrial encroachment. And I'm also concerned about the precedent of using state game lands as a land bank to address private development constraints. And I do question the apparent lack of transparency. I was at the township meeting on Tuesday in Limerick Township where this issue was brought up, and the land swap, and it seemed like the township commissioners, supervisors were blindsided by this proposal. And it was a surprise to people in the community, and I just question that seeming lack of transparency. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Trevor Muth. I live in Chester County, right across the river from the Linfield site. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So I want to speak about the Linfield land swap proposal. And my concern here is not just the outcome of the proposal, but it was how it seems to be conceived, negotiated, and presented to the public. Yesterday, I did watch the presentation, and it was difficult to hear the Game Commission describe how hard staff and others worked to put this deal together with the developer and their comments about the news article after the meeting that was held in Linfield last week. But what was completely absent from that narrative was any acknowledgement of the township's formal letter of opposition or the overflow crowd of residents who showed up and spoke for hours against this proposed swap. Those voices were real and they deserve to be part of the record. What's even more troubling is the way that this land deal seemed to have come together behind closed doors. The current, and I want to be clear, the current Board of Supervisors were never consulted. Residents were left out entirely, including neighbors who live right up against the land that is proposed to be swapped. In a township like Limerick with a long history of being far too cozy with developers at the expense of residents, that silence matters, and voters made it clear this past November that they wanted a different approach. When we're talking about public land and impact to the surrounding communities, cutting the public out of the process isn't just concerning, it's unacceptable and doesn't pass the sniff test. So adding to that concern, this exchange was negotiated with the involvement of the developer's attorney, who is also affiliated with the same law firm that used to represent Limerick Township until earlier this year. At the very least, that creates the appearance of a conflict of interest. What makes this worse is that the Pennsylvania Game Commission has continued to advance this proposal despite those red flags. As I said, Limerick Township has a history of being less than forthcoming about the business it engages in, and this only reinforces that pattern. Decisions involving public land should not be shaped behind the scenes with private developers, especially when these developers stand to profit directly from the outcome. The Pennsylvania Game Commission's mission is to protect and manage wildlife resources and habitats for present and future generations and to preserve meaningful hunting and recreation opportunities. Approving this exchange would undermine that mission. Anyone can draw lines on a map and arrange 8 parcels as a scare tactic as was presented yesterday, but maps do not reflect the reality. The reality is that this data center campus does not become financially viable without this land swap. This exchange is not incidental. It is necessary for the project to move forward, and that's why the developer is pushing so hard to make this deal. What the commission would receive in return is described as riverfront property. But riverfront land adjacent to a hyperscale data center with constant noise, vibration, lighting, and industrial activity is not a viable wildlife habitat. Hyperscale data centers are proven to produce persistent noise and vibration that disrupt wildlife behavior and drive species away. That land will not function as a meaningful habitat. I urge the Commission to reject this proposed land exchange and to honor its mission and its responsibility to the public. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm State Senator Katie Muth. I live in East Vincent Township. I represent parts of Berks, Chester, and Montgomery County. And I also used to represent Limerick Township until the redraw in 2022. I live in a township that is right across the river from Limerick. I drive by this proposed site almost every day. And the exchange that is proposed in contract number L3930 for State Game Land 234 is an incredibly disappointing proposal to have to review and also try to explain to people within the community. I was really on the fence if I was going to come here today and participate in person, but after viewing yesterday's presentation and receiving never-ending texts and emails and calls about that presentation, I felt compelled to spend my Saturday here alongside other concerned residents to correct the record and address the inaccuracies and misleading information presented by the Commission. I want to make sure that we're very clear here that the Game Commission, under Pennsylvania Game and Wildlife code, the commission exists to protect, manage, and preserve wildlife habitat for the benefit of the people of this Commonwealth, the people. I don't believe that unless there's an edited, updated version I'm not privy to, that there's an added to the people and hyperscale data center developers or any other developer or any other corporate interest. We know we live in Pennsylvania, so we all know that sometimes happens as we deal with legacy pollution, have the most Superfund sites in America. And that policy there in Pennsylvania's Game and Wildlife Code is explicit in the whole statute, right? And reinforced in sections 322 and 901, which direct the commission to acquire and manage lands for wildlife purposes. Again, not for industries, not for industrial development, not for even residential development, not for hyperscale data centers, not for substations, for wildlife purposes. Nothing in Title 34 authorizes the commission to act as a mitigation arm for private data center developers. And again, putting opinionated information out on a slide deck that almost suggests as if the PA Game Commission had some sort of authority or oversight on how local governments decide what is zoned or built in their municipality was incredibly disappointing. I think it's very important to point out that the Game Commission, like all state agencies and all state electeds, we have a thing called the Pennsylvania Constitution. And it makes, there's a section in it, Article 1, Section 27, that makes this obligation even clearer. The Environmental Rights Amendment. It designates the Commonwealth, the state of Pennsylvania, and its agencies as trustees of our public natural resources for present and future generations. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court reaffirmed that fiduciary duty in Pennsylvania Environmental Defense Foundation versus the Commonwealth. Trustees do not give away public land because a private project creates pressure along the boundary of that land. Trustees protect the land. Yet the slides presented yesterday admitted several extraordinary things. The information on the slide stated that the Limerick Town Center site will be developed regardless of whether the Game Commission agrees to this exchange. It was also highlighted that local zoning permits a data center, and that it explained that the commission began negotiations to transfer public land because the private development could impact adjacent game lands. Despite no approved plans for that property formally submitted to Limerick Township and no formal plans made available whatsoever to the public. This is not a wildlife first decision. This is not public land being positioned to accommodate. This is simply what it is that you are accommodating industrial expansion and not listening to the people of this Commonwealth that utilize that forest, that utilize those hunting grounds, that want that ecosystem. And I'm deeply troubled by the statement shown on the map that this data center is going in no matter what. This is the exact same verbatim rhetoric used by industry, especially their lawyers who come into communities, and I've been to meetings for the last 7 months on repeat. This is not a legal standard under Pennsylvania law, and it's certainly not justification for preemptively surrendering public land. I know I'm out of time, I think. Am I out of time? Yeah, yep, it's okay. But thank you for having me, and I really do think that you need to vote no on this. Otherwise, you've destroyed the public's trust in this commission. Thank you.
The next item for consideration is found on page 66. Limerick Town Center, LLC, is offering 60 more or less acres of land in Limerick Township, Montgomery County, adjoining state game land number 234, in addition to 377.2 acres of land in Berne Township, Berks County, and 176.8 acres of land in Edgemont Township, Delaware County, to the Commission in exchange for 55 more or less acres of State Game Land 234 in Limerick Township, Montgomery County, as well as a 200-foot right-of-way across the remaining State Game Land number 234. The land in Berks County will provide old field management opportunities, while the land in Delaware County will be the first state game land in this county. Land exchanges are authorized under Section 723(1) of the Game and Wildlife Code.
We have a motion.
So moved.
We have a second. Second. Any discussion?
Mr. President, if I may, please. Now, this one here is very near and dear to my heart. And I received a call on Tuesday by some hunters, and they asked me to come down and take a look at this. And what a beautiful game land it is. But most importantly, those hunters asked me to help them, and I told them I would do everything in my power to help them. Unfortunately, all I have is what I have now, and this is my vote, and I'll be voting no on this.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'd like to have any more discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say something.
Yes.
Earlier today, in comments, there was an inference made as to the honesty of our land acquisition team in presenting this material to us. I'd like to say I really, really resented that, as I have the utmost respect for their integrity and honesty. We've dealt with them, this land acquisition team, for 8 years. We've never had one instance to believe that they were misleading us. So that's all I'd like to say. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Have any more comments?
Yes, Mr. President, I just want to echo what Dr. Metrick just said. I mean, we have spent quite a bit of time, even as the board here, over the past week. I had to take a walk on the break that we had earlier because I was, pretty moved by calling into question the credibility of our team here. I mean, we have spent, as a board, I've been here a little over 3 years, and we've had many, many of these transactions. What you just heard before this were a number of land exchanges. And, we have been presented with, similar types of transactions. And since I've been here, and even, being a partner of the agency with the work I do for almost, 10 years, I've never seen a transaction come back and be presented with, we did something that was not in the best interest of wildlife, of hunters. And when we were presented this, and this is obviously a difficult situation here, it's not the cleanest. I think we've seen that. These are difficult transactions. But I just wanted to, one, thank the staff for standing here, because I think we've had the game lands there now for, I think, 66 years. The property next to this has been sitting vacant in one of the highest value counties in Pennsylvania. And so what was presented to us, and I think the handout here, clearly states that the township in, I think, June 18, 2024, passed an ordinance promoting what's, I guess, a heavy industrial use, and specifically logistics center, a warehouse conditional, and focused on data centers. And so when I watched the township meeting, and Steve, am I correct in understanding that we did not get asked by the township to present information?
I'm not aware of any invitation.
Right. And so I watched this at home in Cochranville, a lot of information being passed around that was not correct. And so we heard today a number of comments, again, calling into question our team. The presentation, Dave, that you made yesterday, I heard the comment about it was a marketing, presentation, which it was not. It was a factual presentation that was presented to us, presented to the public of what is here. And, I know you and the team have, worked with this developer here, because we were clearly going to have an impact on our existing game lands if we do nothing. If we do nothing. And so what you see on that, I guess on the left-hand side, the bottom right, if you pull this up on your Google Maps, I pull it up here, and maybe the property looks a little different right now, but what we're effectively doing is we've had a net gain of 5 acres. We're swapping, 55 to get 60, and we're protecting that area along the Schuylkill River. So we're not losing, a tremendous amount there, and if we did nothing, we're going to have a major impact.
And let me just say, I mean, this is my area, okay? I mean, I live not too far away. I pass by that area quite a bit. We also are now gaining, which we didn't have to do this, 2 other, okay, parcels, 377 acres and 176. By my math, and this is not official in terms of that's probably $20 million worth of property we're gaining, okay, if I do my own math, okay, not officially. So I commend the team in what they've done with this. And again, a lot of these situations are very sticky, they're very hairy, they're very messy. But I just want to just reiterate just the credibility that I have seen from the staff and the hard work that you all do. So I just wanted to make that point, and sorry for belaboring this issue.
Chime in as well on this, and to Commissioner Pride's earlier point, this is not a clear, very black and white deal. But as a commissioner with the fiduciary responsibility to all Pennsylvanians, man, I take a look at this and I see winners and losers on both sides, right? Like, I'm sure the people that live in those houses next to that red hash mark on Penhurst Road feel very, very differently from the folks that live, on Sweetwater Road out there, that could establish the first state game lands in Delaware County. So we don't take these decisions lightly. We don't take these decisions and necessarily rubber stamp and move on. We understand that there's implications and like I said, winners and losers. But man, the winner side is pretty heavy in this deal.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Mr. Secretary, would you have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. President Kinnick?
No.
Mrs. Sankey?
Yes.
I vote no. Mr. Fedora?
Yes.
Mr. Fredericks?
Yes.
Mrs. Copenhagen?
Yes.
Mr. Mitrick?
Yes.
Mr. Pride?
Yes.
And Mr. Schwallow?
No.
There are three negatives and
The vote passed 6-3.
yes.